Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the new game mode, Unbreakable Line, where you get to respawn. We've never seen a game mode like this, and it's very fun. It's a very interesting, different gameplay experience, and I had an absolute blast. I have so many good games all ready to show you guys. So much brawling, close range action. If you know me, you know I'm gonna have a great time with this game mode. There's a few issues with it still, although that could be just skill issue, as I've only played one day of this so far, and I'm still trying to figure out the unique quirks of this game mode. Respawning is very, very different from a standard battle where you can win a flank, you can go after a key target and know that you'll never have to worry about that target again in that battle once you've taken them out. Not so in this one. You have to be on your toes at all times. You gotta be ready for those enemy ships to respawn and come back and get you. Especially considering there's a buff to your ship on respawn, which we'll take a look at. But it's a concealment buff alongside a massive speed boost to help get you back in the fight even quicker. These battles last up to 12 minutes, so rather short timer there. And crucially, we do have cap zones that we fight over. It's very quick to secure these caps, like what, 25 seconds, less than 30 seconds to secure a cap. So you're massively rewarded for stalling out caps and forcing the enemy team to push into you by getting these cap zones. To start with, well, we're going to be playing the Verdi. I kind of forget about this ship existing these days just because it does not perform particularly well in random battles. But in this mode, it is incredible. At these close ranges, these secondaries are monstrous. They don't have the built-in accuracy at all. They're just base battleship secondary accuracy, which makes them not great at range. But at close distances, that's when the DPM here absolutely shines. The SAP secondaries here do an absolute ton of damage. We're brawling it out with a Valparaiso, a little bit of a scary ship. Although he doesn't really do that much damage. Remember, the guns are quite bad here, and his secondaries are only lighting fires, at these ranges at least. So yes, we have the double fire on us, but that's really all we have to worry about. I wanted to wait there to see if he would go broadside enough to fire all of his guns. That of course would let me citadel him yet again, but he goes down quickly enough. Now there's an Iparanga also in front of us, and the enemy team gaining control of the B cap. Very, very crucial that you don't let the points snowball, as it can very quickly tick up to 1,000 points. You do get some points every time you finish off an enemy ship, but you don't actually lose any points for losing a friendly ship. And I think that is maybe one of the reasons that it feels like these games get out of hand rather quickly. I had plenty of close matches, but I also had some blowouts, and I was a little bit unsure as to why those were happening. Especially while playing it, I was rather confused as to why some of the blowouts were happening. And I think it comes down to that, where you don't actually lose points when you lose a ship. Maybe something that Wargaming could look at. I'm not sure why they changed that, because in every other mode you do lose points while the enemy team gains points when you lose a friendly ship. And maybe that difference is why I found it a little bit frustrating towards the end when I got 4 or 5 blowouts in a row. Taking on this A-gear here, outflanking the enemy team, but they're starting to tick up on those points rather quickly. It's 5 points every 4 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that. It does tick rather quickly, so you need to stall out these caps. Not every map is going to give you that opportunity to stall out both. Some of my favorites, as you can probably guess, were the ones where you were allowed to stall both caps at once and really force the enemy team to come after you. Like this one. I'm not quite in that zone yet, but there's a destroyer that we have to worry about. Not the best accuracy on Verdi, of course, although back turret, best turret? Yes, indeed. 3 for 3 there. Getting quite lucky. Now we're about to go down. What's going to happen to us here? We're hopefully going to take out this Iparanga and give our teammates the ability to push in and collect these cap zones for us. Iparanga goes down, we're going to eat these torpedoes, and then the cross shot comes in from the A-gear, who went down earlier to us, if you remember right. You got to watch out for those people respawning and getting the cross shots in on you. So a 15-second timer elapses, and we're back in the fight. This time with a 1-minute buff. Yes, after you do respawn, you get a minute of improved concealment, so you can see how that has impacted the white line on the minimap, as well as a massive speed buff to your ship, allowing you to pretty much get back to the cap zones. I found that even with slower battleships, you get there very, very quickly. Nearly 50 knots on Verdi, unless I am turning. Running faster battleships could get you there even quicker. I'm not sure if it's a percentage increase or not, but if it is a percentage increase, something like Brisk alongside a really fast battleship could be very, very interesting. I'll show you guys the builds towards the end of the video, because I do think that you want to run something a little bit different from random battles. My initial impressions, though, are very positive for this game mode. Of course, brawling is what I love, and also that this is a temporary game mode all to itself, much like Arms Race and Airship Escort, until they put it into randoms, were excellent when they were their own game mode. I think that's the case here too. It's a really, really fun, unique experience for a short time in its own mode. I think it would lose a lot of its draw if it stayed for too long, if it was a permanent game mode, if it was added to random battles. I don't think that would be a good idea. Certainly, I think Wargaming have learned that lesson with the way Airship Escort being added to random battles went. So hopefully we see more of these kind of game modes come in and are temporary. They're fun, unique experiences that are very different from the standard random battles play, giving us a bit of a breath of fresh air and then not overstaying their welcome. So I think really well done, Wargaming, on making a fun, different game mode, and especially really well done, Wargaming, for letting us grind out the dockyard missions in this game mode. That is huge. I was assuming that you couldn't, actually, based on past events. I was just assuming that they wouldn't allow that to happen. But I was pleasantly surprised when people in chat told me that you can actually grind out your dockyard missions. And after checking, sure enough, you can do that, which is really cool. I think the credit gain and XP gain here looks pretty okay as well. It's a little hard to tell without playing the same games back-to-back, random battles, and Unbreakable line, getting similar base XP, but it seems like you can earn a decent amount of credits here, experience, free XP, that kind of thing here too. So really glad they didn't kill the economic gain on this game mode, as they have, I think, done in the past. Really important that you allow people to earn resources and grind out ships in these special game modes. Otherwise, it feels like, what's the point? Not only am I not able to grind out my new ships, maybe I can't grind out mission chains. That's a little bit sad to see, and I'm glad that they allowed that to happen. So far, I haven't seen anything about unique tokens or anything like that for grinding out this event, which, again, I personally am pleasantly surprised by that there's not some new token that is exclusive to this mode that takes forever to grind out, or you have the option to buy it or something like that. That sort of monetization I've kind of gotten used to at this point, so a very pleasant surprise that we don't have to deal with that. This game here coming down to the wire. The enemy team is ahead on points. Both caps are stalled out. This is exactly what I was hoping for out of this game mode. 2 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock, and it looks like that will be the decider. Ruprecht misses one torp set, but not the second, so we're going to have to try and finish him off, and then we're going to have to go respawn. We do manage to help take him out. Our DC brawling it out, getting those torps in, and now it's time for us to respawn again. Over 200k in this one with Verdi. Verdi's no joke at these closer ranges. I found it actually even better than Valparaiso. I actually don't have any Valparaiso games for you, just because, well, we played it yesterday, and yeah, that was quite the video, eh? Kind of disgusting what that thing is capable of. And while it is good in this game mode, I think there's a better selection of ships. You want to be able to burst out more damage quickly. The gimmick of surviving for so long, very powerful when you don't have respawns. But what if you can respawn? Something to note as well, you don't get a second charge of your consumable set. So once you use a limited use consumable, it's gone. That's it for the rest of the game. You gotta make do with the number that you spawned with at the very start. Also potentially limiting Valparaiso's impact of full sending, healing all 8 heals, and then going back in again for more 8 heal gameplay. That's not how it's going to work, which I think is a good thing. Also, the experimental ships, Vyazma being played, or Mets in this, you do have to be careful about using those heals and then running out and respawning with that limited HP that you start each battle with. I think that's also a really interesting limitation that makes those experimental ships not just run the show. 1 minute left on this battle here, and we're barely ahead. Our Z46 looks like he's in a bit of trouble, but so is this Edinburgh. This will decide this battle. The points are that close that if we get a kill, we secure it. If the enemy team gets a kill and we can't finish off this Eden, then they will secure the win. Absolutely down to the wire. I love games like this. Just the absolute best that you can get fully invested. I'm trying to help take him out, and my ship is not cooperating. Our Brindisi, though, has been doing an excellent job. Our Z trying his best to live and not quite able to. So the enemy team has 790 points now. They will win in 15 seconds if we don't manage to finish this guy off. It's so close. It's down to the wire. It's close range brawling action. It's amazing. And yes, Brindisi clutches up for us, and we will win this game just like that. 805 to 790 after 12 minutes. Definitely give this mode a try for yourself. You're able to div, I think, up to 4-player divs with this one. So definitely go in with your buddies and have some fun with it. Just not take it too seriously. Something I had to realize after going back and watching some of the footage, when you die, you'll often look at the minimap and think, why is my team so passive? This is a brawling mode, and then start complaining about that. I certainly had that initial reaction, and I was totally wrong, because looking back at what's going on, everybody goes in and pushes, they die, and they respawn at the back. So then if you happen to die while they're respawning and in the process of getting back into the battle, it looks like they're back behind you and you died and without support, but that's not actually what's happening. So important to realize that everyone is playing their own matches, and while you're very quick to get back in the battle, there are times where there's a little bit of travel time to get there. Now then, on to some more highlights of my play session. We were playing the Karl Johan here purely as a secondary torp build. One of the things that I realized after playing some Valparaiso games was, and Verdi for that matter, hydro and torpedoes are incredibly important when you're full sending like this. A lot of the enemy ships are going to have hydros to spot out torpedoes. Smokes become less valuable there too, thanks to the hydros. But you're going to get in situations like this, where you're at such close point-blank range that the torps are just guaranteed to hit. So if you don't have torps, you're at a massive disadvantage to those that do. Hydros can help spot those out, but oftentimes if you're full sending and the people on the enemy team are full sending, like this one, you're going to run into situations like this, where you both just torp each other out. And if you don't have torps, like with Verdi, Valparaiso, you will be at a bit of a disadvantage. Having a hydro helps a ton for dealing with torpedoes. There's a few games that I played where some Jaegers were causing some problems, and not having a hydro was a massive disadvantage. So even though Johan does not have the best guns, having these secondaries that can light a ton of fires and just spamming out so many torpedoes is really, really valuable. Important to note though, when you respawn, your torpedoes aren't always going to be loaded, so you will have to wait for them to reload if they were on cooldown. That's the key here. If you have all your torps loaded and you die, then the torps will be loaded when you respawn. But if the torps are in the process of reloading, then they won't. They'll be completely reset and you'll have to start all over from scratch, which is why I went in with Johan to try a torp build, because the torpedo reload is so quick. Even if we do go down in a situation like this, by the time we get into the battle again after dying, we should have our torps loaded again, where with other ships, Ruprecht for example, much longer torpedo reload and won't always have those torps available for you. These ones are also really quick, so you're able to catch people like that Ruprecht who is trying to get behind that island. We're going to respawn here, and I think our team has this one actually. Yeah, so 223, 16 torp hits. Very fun in Johan. Plenty of ships get their time to shine here when it comes to brawling. While they may not be as amazing in random battles, they're very good in ranked and even better in a game mode like this. What about cruisers though? What about cruisers? Michelangelo, another pasta ship doing very good work here. This is a great example in this game, at least later on, where these fuel smokes are a little bit less valuable when you're full sending like this. all those hydros. Aegir's going to have a hydro for us. The Schroeder, I believe, also gets a hydro. Pommern has a hydro. Ruprecht has a hydro. Some has a hydro. A lot of hydros, which makes sense. There's a lot of YOLO torping going on that you got to worry about, but also dealing with those smoke screens. And because you respawn, there's a little bit of a thought of YOLOing in to try and deal with those destroyers early so that they don't have the opportunity to full cap everything before your slower battleships get into play to start blocking some of those cap zones. That's what we're going to try to do here. I think we're going to get smashed, though. We'll see how long Michelangelo lasts. We're not quite as tanky as something like the Napoli at tier 10. But this ship still has insane secondary firepower. We got torpedoes, we get the hydro and smoke combo. So we're able to see the SOM here and hopefully click on them. Yeah, there we go. Secondaries are on them. SAP secondaries, but now we have a bit of a problem. The Njord has found a broadside angle, and Michelangelo is very vulnerable to these situations. So we're gonna go down. We've already done over 50k damage in this one, and that's very good, but it does mean we're leaving our team at a disadvantage. So there's a thought of, when do I push and full send, maybe go down and then respawn, or do I try and hold on to caps? It's a little bit tricky trying to balance that out. Your aggression versus trying to not fully die so that you have that long run back, or relatively long run back into the battle. The speed boost at the start of a respawn certainly helps out a ton. But in this situation, you can see we've lost our Musashi, our Z, and our Los Andes all around the same time. So they're having to get back into the fight, which does leave us at a bit of a disadvantage up close here. So should I full push? Should I not? We're going to full push, and after giving it some more thought, I think there's a lot of situations where I did not push hard enough. I didn't take enough focus, because you might want to just full send and push the enemy back so far into their spawn, giving your guys time to take up powerful positions next to the island. So here's a situation where we get into, and we catch out the destroyer trying to stall out the cap there. And we're probably going to go down here, but we're going to try and use our smoke screen and not fire. We got to wait for our 20-second gun bloom after shooting. I should be smoking up quickly. Although maybe not quite quickly enough. Pommern gets his shot. Looks like he was just a bit too late. So we're lucky to be alive here. But now he's 7 kilometers away. Pommern, pretty good in this game mode. I do have a clip to show you that afterwards. And he's got a 6-kilometer hydro. And we're very broadside to basically the entire enemy team right now. So he pops his hydro, and now we're in trouble again. Hydro, very important. These smokes that I thought would be so good on Michelangelo and Verdi turned out to be not as impactful. The other thing is, if you're the one smoking up, you're not also spotting then for your team. And because of that, sometimes those smokes aren't as valuable either. So much better to just fully tank with Verdi, I found. And Michelangelo, maybe I should be flanking more instead of just full sending the middle of the map. But we did manage to land those torps, and our team managed to clutch it out. Pretty close one here, although we had a very good team in this one. It was a little back and forth at the start. On to the Pommern, though, and what if you just don't die? That's what's going to happen here. We're going to tank in the Pommern, and we just don't respawn. And I think this is an interesting way of playing this mode, and probably a bit of a mistake in my later matches where things got a little bit out of hand, lost a lot of games, a lot of blowout games that were a loss. I think I was trying to play it too much like random battles, where I want to isolate 1v1s and protect some of my ship's HP at the cost of not taking the full focus of the enemy team, allowing my teammates to get better positions. It's a very different game mode, which I like. I think that's really interesting. So it's going to take me some time to figure out how to play it best to help my team out. But this is how I would play random battles, right? I would push in up close to an island like this with Pommern, angling in such a way where I'm not giving flat broadside. And basically, I'm not greeting for all of my turrets is what's happening here. We're fortunate the Pommern's not shooting at us. We get to shoot at him. Our Georgia, on the other hand, is pushing and tanking the whole team. I should be going in with him right now. I think it is a misplay here. at this point. It's hard to know at the moment, especially because this is so early on in actually playing this game mode. But secondaries, ripping through the enemy Pommern. Important to note, I'm not running Lucians here. I was not running Sansonetti on the Italian ships. I didn't end up running Lisboa on Los Andes or Valparaiso when I was playing them. And that's because you can't actually proc the commander's special buffs in battle. So 100 secondary hits doesn't actually get you better reload on the Pommern when you're running Lucians. Interesting. I'm not sure why that necessarily was. This is already such a funny, gimmicky game mode that I don't think adding those buffs in would have been such a big deal, but it is worth noting, and it means you don't have to swap over to that absolute best in slot commander to have a really, really good build. Hydro here helping us against this Z46. One of the main reasons also was that DD smoking up and torping you and farming you from those smokes is a big problem for these battleships a lot of the time, and in this case the Hydro does catch him and we do take him out. Fortunately for us, though, we did have a very good team in this one, allowing me to play this too safe a playstyle, which is kind of funny. Usually I'm doing the opposite of that, but I am playing it too safe here, and we still end up getting a win here rather comfortably. The enemy Pommern's pushing in. This is definitely where we want those torpedoes, and our teammates have a lot of torps on the way too, so again, helping us out a lot. But the next game will be the final one, Los Andes. I get like I think over 300k in it, and shows off another example of playing this a little bit too safe, and I think it is our downfall here. Even looking at this Pommern game, why am I trying to wait until my heal comes back and hide behind the island waiting for consumables? It's this random battles, ranked mode, well, not a mode with respawns, essentially, is what my brain has been trained to do. It's 10 years nearly of muscle memory that I got to get rid of for this game mode. It's funny, I'm usually too aggressive, and yet here I am playing way too passive for the mode that we're in. I get to another heal. I think it's kind of neat that I was able to survive so long in this battle and tank a reasonable amount of damage. You know, we're still not even at 2 million potential though, so not crazy potential damage even. And Pommern did show itself to be quite good. That's another reason I think maybe Valparaiso a little bit less good, as well as some of the other battleships that have vulnerable citadels, that don't have turtleback, that have 32 mil plating on their upper belt or bow armor, that kind of thing. They're not as good in this game mode because it can get burst down rather quickly. And that's fine because you can respawn, but ships that don't have fast cooldowns on their heals or their damage controls, but their gimmick is just a lot of armor, I think perform a lot better here, just because they don't have to worry about waiting around for their heals like I'm doing now. But they just get to go in and use that extreme armor profile to allow them to survive quite a bit longer, to trade a lot better with those softer battleships, and come out on top just because you'll both respawn and you'll just survive a little bit longer overall. Of course, the best example of that is going to be the Los Andes from the Pan American battleship line. This ship has insane amounts of armor, as well as extremely powerful secondaries. Even though they've been nerfed, I think they're still really, really strong, especially on the pen. 59 mil pen is crazy. The ship also just gets away with too much when going broadside as well, where Valparaiso doesn't quite as much. But here's an example of trying to isolate fights a little bit, here getting a little bit aggressive for both sides, secondary action, but not playing so aggressive that I would push out and, you know, potentially get cross-shot by the Pommern, Freddy, Michelangelo. But in doing this, I think it leaves my team vulnerable to getting run over by those enemy ships, and here I am trying to take 1v1 or 2v1 fights that ultimately don't really help secure or defend the A cap at all. So we're going to hang on to B for a while, but you see how I'm stopping here? I'm not getting aggressive to get shots on the Orage, the destroyer coming in, that kind of thing. I think I could be trying to push a little bit further here, and sure, I would probably go down quicker than I will in this one, but considering the result at the end and how quickly this one gets out of hand for the enemy team to win this one, looking back, I think the play here is probably just to over push. I see Pommern and Freddy pushing and Michelangelo before and thinking, they're just over pushing. That's a mistake. But in fact, I think they're playing better than I am here. I'm playing too passive. And sure, Karl Johan torpedoes, we've already seen what that can do. A little wary of that, but pushing the enemy back so far into their spawn and forcing them to fight in their spawn. You can see it here. Our Soyuz kind of in a kiting position away from the Pommern. They do manage to take them out, but it does mean that they're further away from the caps and the enemy team gets to hold on to A for longer. So that's where I think that full send pushing and then respawning and trying to get back in as quickly as you can allows for better control over the caps rather than just hiding in this spot here trying to isolate fights like I'm doing. It's very different. I'm still undecided on, or I still don't know if that's actually correct, but this is my thoughts after one day on trying to figure out the best ways to help your team with winning. And of course, not that it's all about winning, right? This is just a for fun game mode, but it is nice to have close games, ones where it doesn't feel like your points are barely ticking up and the enemy team is just getting closer and closer to victory. And this is coming back to why are we not getting point reductions for losing a ship? I guess I can understand it being a bit of a race to 1,000 points and not wanting to punish people for losing a ship as much. Maybe that's the idea. And really trying to incentivize as much as possible, removing as many barriers as possible from the respawning element of this game mode. But I think that's such a crucial portion of the point system in this game, and that in losing a ship, you do also lose some points while the enemy team gains some points. It's a bit of a point swing there, as well as keeping both teams, when they lose ships, further away from that goal of 1,000 points, rather than it just slowly always ticking up towards that. Maybe I'm incorrect in that sort of idea, but to me it would be a little more enjoyable if, I don't know this for sure. Maybe this was tested and I'm totally wrong here. I'll freely admit that. I don't actually know here. But I think it might be more enjoyable if that point swing, you would lose points for losing a ship still, and the enemy team would gain points, just like it is in every other game mode. Maybe that's just my unfamiliarity with this system talking. Certainly that could be it. We do manage to take out that destroyer, but again, they're just slowly ticking up on points. And I guess that's also to incentivize stalling out the caps, like we are now. Holding B, our friendly Musashi is holding out the A cap, really forcing you to push in to deal with the cap zones more. Maybe I'm convincing myself of the other point now, that it's good that you don't lose points on a loss of a ship, where you're just so incentivized that you have to get in the caps, incentivizing brawling more. Yeah, maybe I think that. It's early days still, right? I obviously don't know everything here. This is just a fun mode that there's some frustration around losing a lot of blowout games in that later half of my play session, even though it was still incredibly fun. We got 283 in this one, and we respawn, but before I can even make it back to the cap, this one is going to end in a loss for us. Maybe that's where the frustration came in. I wasn't able to use the respawning gimmick to try and get back into this game. Perhaps that was it as well. Which again leads me back into, it's just a skill issue. I need to full send more to use the respawn sooner and get back into the fight before the battle is over. But still, 320k damage out of a Los Andes. So much of that is in the secondaries, which was the nerf. One of the major nerfs, of course, the propulsion and the drifting ability of this ship was the other nerf, and yet this ship is still able to perform here. And before we go back to port, although this is probably going to happen as we go back to port now that I'm looking at what's left of this game, I do want to talk about or acknowledge some criticism, and valid criticism, of my previous video on Valparaiso. It is a very toxic div. I hear you guys loud and clear, and I am curious as to where the primary negativity or dislike of that video is coming from. Yeah, look at the secondary damage. 154 from the raw secondaries and then 60 from fires. Absolutely crazy. And back in port now, I'll show you guys the builds or the differences in builds in a little bit. But for this Valparaiso video, I want to make sure I'm understanding the criticism correctly, as I want to, I make this content for you guys, so I want to make the best possible content that you're interested in. And I don't want to make videos where it's purposefully frustrating for you to watch or anything like that. My intention was to show off the ridiculousness of the Valparaiso in that div and just kind of have a good time laughing about it with some friends, right? And I don't think that's the way it was delivered. Perhaps that was my fault for the delivery on it, but I'm curious. I read a lot of the comments. I might not be responding to all the comments, but I do often just read through the comments, while I'm taking a break or having lunch or whatever. I want to understand what you guys are saying and are interested in as far as new content for the channel, what you think about Wargaming's monetization, and of course, most importantly, what you guys think about the content I'm making. And this one is really important to me, as this one very clearly did not sit well with you guys, and I want to understand why, so that I can make better content in the future. So is it just that the div is toxic and it's not cool to be griefing the server like that, which I understand. I can understand that perspective. Is it that the ship itself is so busted that I shouldn't be making content on the ship in that way? Or maybe I'm not hard enough on Wargaming for making such a busted ship? Perhaps that's it? There's obviously nuance here. It's not just one of these. Probably all of the above, right? The other one being it's so expensive that I'm showing off the latest toy and it's so good that I'm shilling for Wargaming, right? Maybe that's one of them that I've seen too. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I often do this with these new ships, especially when they suit my playstyle. I'll do the initial videos on them, talk about the specs and all that stuff, and then I'll play them some more, enjoy them, and show off some of the absolute best games that I've had in them. That's a very common thing for me to do. And this one has sat differently. So just really trying to understand the community's perspective on this. I really don't want to... I want to make good content for you guys. I want you guys to enjoy it and not get, find it entertaining, informative, all that, and not find it frustrating to watch and aggravating to watch. That's not my intention at all. In fact, that's the opposite of what I want to do. So, quick aside, done. I really do appreciate all the feedback, though. It does help me a lot, and I do appreciate that a ton. As for the builds in Unbreakable line here, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't think you need to run concealment as much. I was running some meme builds here along the lines of just full sending all the damage stuff, secondaries, all that. When you don't have a hydro, vigilance, very, very useful skill to have. We're not as worried about getting back to our consumables because we should be full sending in, doing as much as we can, maybe using 1 damage control, 1 heal, and then respawning. I think that's a legitimate strat in this game mode, which is quite cool. As for some of the equipment upgrades, I'm even running torpedo lookout system for the first time. I don't know if vigilance and torp lookout system stacks even, so might be better to go consumables mod or something like that, and then full secondaries otherwise. And that was pretty much the same build that I was running on everything. And Michelangelo here trying to maximize the smoke here a bit, as well as the secondaries, and running a build a little bit like this. The concealment matters a lot less when you're just W keying in with a lot of these ships. I haven't tried destroyers yet. I think Paolo Emilio could be kind of interesting here with some full sending torps, although you notice the torp reload is, it's not long, but it's not short either. So if we full send it in, YOLO torp someone, and then we respawn with that speed buff, are we getting back to the battle before our torps are even loaded? I don't know. Could be worth trying out. I think there's a lot of fun options here to play into this. But again, it's its own separate mode, which I think is really cool. I think it's great to have this as a separate game mode that people choose to go play, and they know what they're getting into rather than it being added to random battles. So I would be sad if Wargaming were to shove it into random battles and then that again probably not go over so well for for everyone. Just like Airship Escort wasn't so good being added in like that. The extra armor here on Pommern, I think just huge deal. Shattering so much HE, bouncing AP when angled. You do have the weak superstructure, but it still takes a while to die to superstructure at those closer ranges in particular. And Pommern can pump out a lot of damage. It has those torpedoes that I was talking about, close range, but you want torps, you want hydro and torps and good armor. To me, feel like the best aspects of a ship that wants to full send in as far as battleships go. Destroyers and cruisers could be a little different, but this is still early days of playing this mode, and I had a ton of fun with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, taking a look at some of my experience early on in Unbreakable Line. And again, thank you for the feedback, and let me know what you think about Unbreakable Line, as well as the feedback on Valparaiso video clarifications and all that. And again, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.